That's actually a good story to tell about how David got into Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, by ignoring the casting agent's direction.
There was nearly no McKay in Stargate Atlantis. Could you even imagine such a thing?
Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. And even more than that, Stargate Atlantis nearly didn't happen. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So what? What nonsense is this that Rodney McKay was nearly not in Stargate Atlantis?
That's actually a good story to tell about how David got into Atlantis.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. I mean,
Yeah, by ignoring the casting agent's direction.
no, do you not even know this story?
I know some of the story, but you should. Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
The character that a lot of people loved more than any other. David Hewlett has become a sci-fi god to many of us and an absolute legend. And McKay, for me, was my favourite character. It would not have been anything like the same show without him.
Well, I mean, David's character wasn't in the show when we were casting it. We spent a good deal of time casting. In fact, you started after we started shooting, didn't you? Like,
yes, I think it was like the last
cast. You were cast after we started shooting.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Rodney McKay, the character of Rodney McKay, had appeared in SG1. And I'd always assumed, really, that it was always the plan for him to go into SGA. That they were just sort of grooming him. Or at very least, that he was so brilliant in SG1, which, let's be honest, he was, that I've always thought he was the first name on the sheet. You know, that executives would have been actually screaming, "Get David Hewlett." It always sort of made me think about sort of the 5th season of Angel. Now, follow me, I have a point. That actually Spike's character died at the end of Buffy, but the executives were desperate to get the character in Angel because he was so popular. So they actually forced Joss Whedon to do it. And Joss Whedon had to fire Charisma Carpenter because of it, because they couldn't afford all the actors. I've always assumed there was a similar thing to that it was sort of like when they started talking about doing Stargate Atlantis, they was like, we'd really love that Rodney McKay guy. David Hewlett's great. Build a show around him. But no, that is not the case at all. So on a recent interview over on The Companion, Brad Wright, Robert Cooper, and David Hewlett talked about this very issue. And they talked about David Hewlett's character. They actually talked about the genesis of Rodney McKay. They talked about the lemons.
The writer who was on the show for a short period of time, who claimed he was mortally allergic to lemon.
Yeah.
And
really? Oh,
yeah,
that's where that came from.
And we the story was we used to go to Brad's favorite restaurant, Swiss Chalet, for lunch.
Love it.
Yeah, and this guy on several occasions would ask the server, is there lemon in the sauce? How he talked. Because I'm mortally allergic to lemon. You could say that. Mortally allergic. And for the longest time, the server's like, no, there's no lemon in that. And so we went on like that for some time. Then another time we went back and he did it again. He asked the question. And the server was like, oh yes, of course there is.
It's like 50% lemon.
He was eating this sauce with the lemon in it for months.
Now, I absolutely adore that the character was sort of created out of Robert Cooper's brain because of the way people thought about him.
The writer's room used to kind of mock me a little bit about what I would do and say in the writer's room. Yeah.
You, Rob?
Yeah. They said I had a look, and they also said Brad would often say his joke was that I would comment, I didn't hear anything you were saying, but while you were talking, and then I would say my idea. And so I just wrote that character, and everybody's like, oh, he's such a great villain. And I was like, interesting.
In some ways, McKay is Cooper. And David Hewlett obviously talks about how he felt that actually it was morphing between Brad Wright and Robert Cooper. And, you know, Brad Wright wrote a lot of the characters, so of course it would be and would reflect elements of his own personality in there, perhaps. But also, Brad Wright has talked a lot about how he would watch actors and that he would try to bring a lot of their own mannerisms into a character. And let's be honest, David Hewlett was McKay. I've watched David Hewlett in interviews, etc., on his podcasts and on his streaming for years. And every so often, he sounds like McKay. He's obviously a massive geek. He's a nerd. He is one of us. But also there is a little bit of an, I want to say arrogance, but it's not really. It's a swagger about him. Something that him and McKay did share. Now, McKay's obviously was on a different level. But it does seem to me that David Hewlett does have a little bit of a tinge of Robert McKay to his personality. So, there you have it. When they started filming, they hadn't cast David Hewlett. They still had this Ingram character, a completely different character in mind for the team.
Ask from the network, or at least it wasn't explicit, but you kind of felt like, well, we want something new. We want it to be all fresh and different. And so bringing like legacy characters over, you know, was maybe not our first thought. But, you know, when we went through the casting process, we realized nobody was as good as David. So.
There wasn't a McKay. Brad Wright was talking about how, we just want that sort of character, but the executives over at Sci-Fi wouldn't let them do it. They wouldn't let them cast the person they wanted. In the end, they got David Hewlett to actually go to a casting director and do a read for the Ingram character. But he kept doing it as McKay.
And the casting agent kept saying like, it's too McKay. It's too McKay. And I would say, I'd go like, oh, really? Well,
whoever his manager is, I actually want to punch them in the testicles with an ice pick.
Our choices, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they huddled up and ranked their choices, and our 1, 2, 3, 4 was their 4, 3, 2.
If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out, and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can go to patreon.com/SciTrek, where most of our new videos premiere first, and you get to see them without the adverts, you lucky bunnies. Also, finally, you can go to scitrek.co.uk, which is our dedicated website, and we write articles based on a lot of our videos, and we try to add a little bit more information for you to digest. Go and check it out. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.